Today I want to create an oil pastel mixed media painting. Lately I've been studying landscapes. As you can see, I've put up a bunch of my landscapes on the wall as inspiration. See what I've done so far and where I want to go. I've been exploring minimalism, been exploring different brush strokes and color palettes and so on. So today I thought I would do the same with oil pastel. My plan is to block off the few first layers with watercolor and acrylic, let everything dry, and then finish off the painting strictly with oil pastels. So the feel of the painting at the end will look like an oil pastel, but there'll be that underpainting of different other mediums, and hopefully they play really well together. I'll be working from this reference photo. It's a picture I took from my grandpa's farm, so it holds a lot of meaning, great memories there. I also want to show you a few things around the studio as I go, and I'll show you my process. So hopefully you're up for a calm, chilled oil pastel painting today. Let's get going. Side note, at one stage of the painting, this stage of the painting, I was getting really overwhelmed by everything and I felt like the painting wasn't coming together at all. I guess the colors were overwhelming me. So while the painting was drying, I took a moment to myself to kind of gather my thoughts. I took a sketchbook and a pencil and I did a study of this landscape strictly with pencil to kind of gather myself, see what texture I wanted to include, what I wanted to leave out. The point was to remove all the colors and recenter myself because I tend to get overwhelmed with colors. For some reason, it really helped me refocus my attentions on the textures and the composition without all those colors coming into play. And it also helps reframe the work, as in, at the first stages of a painting, all is not lost. It can always go anywhere. And even further in a painting, I can always rework certain areas that I don't like. And if a painting doesn't turn out the way I want to, it's not because I'm not good enough or all those negative thoughts that we tend to tell ourselves. It's maybe one specific area that is something that I struggle with. For me, I feel like it's colors. And if I simplify that area, things might get a little bit easier. So knowing that information, that I struggle with colors and that I have trouble achieving an interesting, to my own eye, result with a whole bunch of colors, but I can achieve something that I'm pleased with when it's just pencil, it tells me work your way up to a bunch of colors. Keep things very minimal at the beginning, maybe just pick 2 colors and just work within a super minimal color palette and build up on that and adding more shades to not feel that overwhelming feeling of this is too much, I want to give up, I suck. Food for thoughts. If it helps one person, it's worth mentioning. Before I show you the result, I just want to remind you that if you like art and if you want to be more inspired, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Hitting the bell is one way to really help my channel, and be sure to see my videos again so that they don't get lost in all the YouTube goodness. So many good stuff out there. Thank you so much in advance for that. When it comes to oil pastels and mixed media, the one thing to remember is that you can use any mediums you want with oil pastel as long as they're used before putting oil pastel. So nothing goes on top of oil pastel, because there could be problems with paint that peels off or gets removed or cracks. Oil pastel is the very last layer, and in case you need to put a little bit more paint on top of oil pastel, the only way to do it is to scrape everything off in the area you want to add paint. Remove all that oil pastel with a little skewer, and then you can go ahead and put paint. But oil pastel goes at the end. When it comes to my painting, my result, I'm really happy with it. There are things that I would change, things that I love. Let's get into it. I love the sky. The sky was done in watercolor. It's a purple sky. I like the mix of oil pastel, which is very saturated and very textured, with watercolor. Always like that mix together, because watercolor is so much opposite, translucent, very thin, sheer. So I feel like they really complement each other really well. It's something to explore further. When it comes to acrylic, I feel like it's the perfect underpainting for oil pastels, just because it's more versatile when it comes to colors. You can add a little bit of white, a little bit of black to have more subtle differences in colors without having to buy a whole bunch of colors, because oil pastels is limited in colors in that sense, and it allows to put a lot more layers of color. So acrylic as an underlayer, a first layer of paint, is something that I do a lot. When it comes to the final result of this painting, I can't say that minimalism was achieved. That's an understatement. I guess when it comes to oil pastel, I haven't really been able to use it in a super minimal way, or if I have, it was only a few times. I get caught up in textures and details, and I find like oil pastel is good for that, to have a lot of texture, that having that signature texture of oil pastel. So I'm kind of okay with it. I go along with it. The only thing that I would change in this painting is probably in the foreground, like the first plane at the bottom of the page. I would probably have left it as a few large strokes of acrylic paint in a more minimal way. That might have been more interesting and kept the focus on those trees in the middle of the fields. So that might have been something to change or explore, but who knows? I've done this. I created a bunch of textures with a few flowers in the foreground, and the overall result to me is successful. It's not a minimal painting, but I like the overall result. And after adding paint, removing stuff and adding more stuff, watercolor is visible in the sky and in this section of the field. Everything else was covered with acrylic. Like here, there's a bunch of acrylic here and there, and all the rest of the texture is oil pastel. If you want to try this and you're not too sure where to start, I would say that watercolor and oil pastel work really well together, as in if you want to see sections of the painting to be watercolor and other sections to be oil pastels, they play really well together. Whereas acrylic, it still works together, I find, but for me, acrylic works more as an underpainting. I can say also that the sketch that I did as a study really helped the process of the final painting as well. That's something to keep in mind. If you want more inspiration, you can go watch this one, and I will see you in just a few days for another one. Thanks for watching.